August, and this is a regularly scheduled town board meeting. First order of business is roll call. Mrs. Green?
Here.
Mr. Ruggiero?
Present.
Mr. Manley?
Here.
Mr. Lobiondo?
Here.
And Mr. Piaquadio?
Here.
Okay, everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the
to the
flag
flag of the
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Mr. Supervisor, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes. Under 6, I want to remove 6A will be scratched off, and therefore 6B will become 6A, and the current 6C will become 6B. I want to remove number 7 totally on the hiring of part-time clerks, as we have a budget meeting coming up, and we'll do it after that budget meeting. And on number 11, there will be an increase on the purchase of those electrical fixtures of $5,000, not $3,000 as indicated. So those will be the changes. And I do have one add-on if we could do it. And that'll be a T94 withdrawal. And it's to pay Flannery Animal Hospital for their services. And that's all I have.
How about, Mr. Supervisor, how about a new item 19, Highway Department? Approval to hire MEO 1A employee?
Yes, absolutely. So let's go with that.
Okay.
The new 19.
Are there any other changes, please?
I have none.
I have none. None.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to item 5 for the approval of the audit.
Looking for a motion to approve this audit in the amount of $385,840.86.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero?
Yep.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo?
Yes.
And Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Okay, next we go on to the new item 6A, which is the resolution of introduction and referral for 5th Avenue and Route 52 Gasland.
Yes, and this is a map amendment change. Mark, do you want to tell us just a little bit here?
Sure. This is the property at the corner of Route 52, South Plank Road, and 5th Avenue, which currently contains a convenience store gas station. The property owner has petitioned for a zoning amendment, which would change the zoning from Z3, it's a pre-existing non-conforming use in that residential zone, to the B business district. The business district includes properties immediately adjacent to Route 84 and an extension from the boundary of that district to include this property, which is, I think, about 3/4 of an acre.
All right, thank you, Mark. So with that, we'll look for a resolution of referral on this map amendment change. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion for the resolution.
A second.
Was that Councilwoman Green who seconded, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero?
Yes.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo?
Yes.
And Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Okay, next we go on to the new item 6B, which is the resolution to schedule a public hearing.
Yes. And do we have a date for that public hearing, Joseph. That works with Mark too.
Well, the next town board meeting is scheduled for Monday, September 14th.
At 7 o'clock, we'll make it then. Mark?
Yes, you have nothing, no other hearings scheduled at this point, I believe, so 7 o'clock works.
Okay, good. So we're looking for a motion to schedule that public hearing on this topic, September 14th, 7 o'clock. So I want to make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Was that Councilman Lobiondo who seconded?
It was.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes.
Okay, number 7 is deleted. Next, we go on to item 8, Orange County Youth Bureau, COVID-19 revised funding contract.
Okay. So once again, this is a resolution or a contract with the county. Mark, you would tell us just a little bit here from the legal end too?
This is basically a funding contract for the Summer Youth Police Academy. The county is providing $2,550 in funding. This is less than it's provided in the past due to the COVID-19 crisis.
Very good. Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make the
approve.
motion.
Okay.
I also want to stress to everybody that we really rely on the Youth Bureau. They support us on DARE, plus are very supportive of the Junior Police Academy and when we are able to have camp at Chadwick. So I thoroughly endorse this change.
All right, thank you, Betty. But did Betty make the motion, Joe?
Yes, Betty made, Councilwoman Green made the motion. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 9, bond resolution, Gardnertown Road, Gidney Avenue Culvert.
All right, and this here, we're doing a bond resolution for an additional $698,450. And this is for the replacement of the bridge or culvert at Gardner and Gidney Town. But the good news is we reimbursed 80% of the construction costs. So Jim Osborne also sent out an email tonight where he's okay with this addition. So with that, I think we should have a motion and approve it.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes.
Okay, next we go on to item 10, for data processing, purchase of 2 laptops.
All right. So these are 2 laptops that we purchased from Dell. One will be used by Jim Prasuti, our Commissioner of Parks, and the other one will be assigned here to my office, the supervisor's office, which will serve several purposes as well as Zoom meetings and that type of thing. So with that, we're looking to expend $1,827.76, and that's with Dell for these 2 laptops. Does anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes. Now we're going to look for a motion to expend $1,827.76 from the computer reserve account, which is account 001.1680.0497. Someone want to make that motion?
Yes, I'll make the motion as well.
And I'll second his motion.
Was that Councilman Manley who seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we have item 11 for Hudson Plaza Electrical Supplies. Please note that the town supervisor increased it from $3,007.24 to $5,000.
Correct. On this one, back in November 6th, 2019, we bid all types of work for 21 Hudson Plaza. 21 Hudson Plaza was a donation building. Dr. Rendano actually gave us that 7,500 square foot building. So he gave it to us, and then we secured a grant for $250,000 to remodel it. And currently, code compliance and animal control are in there. But on the electrical fixtures that we purchased, this was the low bidder. However, we bought additional fixtures, and they're telling me we better approve another $5,000 to make sure we cover the additional fixtures purchased so we can pay the HC Electrical. So someone want to make that motion for the additional $5,000, which
I'll make the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to just say that this is for exterior lighting that wasn't anticipated, and that's why the cost went up.
very good, Paul. Paul really done a lot of work on that building. The clerk of the works he was there. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 12, Jewish Family Service Memorandum of Understanding for Services.
Yes, here, this is for the new year, January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, and this is an agreement with Jewish Family Services, and we know them locally as Friends of Seniors. They do a tremendous amount of work for seniors here, and this is Councilman Manley's mom, too, that really leads the role here in the town, and we can't thank her enough. So this is again, an agreement, but we're asking the town board to once again give them $2,000 based on the work they perform within this town. So someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
and I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Abstain.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 13, purchase of Gator.
All right. This is a Gator from John Deere. Again, it's OGS state bid. It will be used at recreation. Currently, there are, I guess, 3 Gators being used, and this will really help as an extra one with some of the personnel to get around and check the trail. So with that, I'm looking to expend $10,286.88 for the purchase of this John Deere HPX 61 SE Gator.
so moved.
Someone?
I'll second.
and I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 14. For the Assessment Review Board, reappointment of Joseph Lecaros.
Okay, so Joseph's been on the board and he's done a pretty outstanding job, I guess. So we're looking to reappoint him again, as this is going to run out very shortly. That would be a 5-year appointment that will expire in September 30th, 2025. So someone want to make that
I will
motion?
I will be glad to make that motion to endorse Joe Lacaro.
I will second Bill Lackery.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we have item 15. We have 2 road name requests. The first one is Alley Lane.
Okay, so I see that code has gone over this, and what they're actually saying is they're looking to rename a road from East Rock Cut Road, from the East Rock Cut Road Corporation for their subdivision, which is located off of Fletcher. They want to name the road Alley Lane, A-L-I Lane. So does someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we have 15B, another private road name, Kalen Court.
Okay, here again, same thing. This subdivision is located off of Lakeside Road. It's part of the Mann subdivision. And they're looking at the name of Kalen Court. And I guess code has looked it over, is okay with it. So someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 16, fleet maintenance surplus vehicle.
All right, so this is an international dump truck. I'm not going to read the serial number off. So this would become surplus, and it's a 2002 dump truck. So I think it's well over its time, but we will put it out to auction. So does someone want to make a motion to declare this dump truck surplus?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 17, resolution, New York State Retirement System for elected officials.
It seems like we just done this a few months ago, and we did. And usually the town board will pass a resolution. In order to be eligible in the retirement system, you have to work a certain amount of hours, even as an elected official. And we listed them, and we posted it for 30 days. And then the retirement system said our calculations were wrong, so we actually redone them. So this is a corrected version we have here tonight. So if we approve this resolution as is, then it will be put on the website, and it'll be posted in town hall for 30 days, and then sent to the retirement system. So someone want to make that motion on this amended retirement form?
so move,
I'll
May I have
second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 18 for the police department, solicitation to return 2 police officers as laborers.
All right. And these are 2 police officers with many years in the system here with the town, very loyal police officers, outstanding. But what they're actually going to be doing here on August 16th, let's talk about Ted Brancato first. He'll be vacating his position as police sergeant on August 16th, and will start as a laborer on August 17th, 2020. And will probably be assigned to the park and help there. So With Ted Brancato, it'll be an August 17, 2020 hire date or start date with an hourly rate of $15.50 as per the CSAA contracts. I want to make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes. So let's do this next one now, which is James Ninny. He also will be vacating his position as lieutenant on September 6, 2020, and will also start as a laborer in recreation at an hourly rate of $15.50 with a start date of September 7th, 2020. So we want to make that motion.
I'll
So
make
I
it.
so,
go ahead.
Was
I
that
make-
you? Was that you, Councilman Ruggiero?
No, Scott Manley, Councilman Manley.
Thank you. Thank you. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Okay, next we have our new item 19, the first of two add-ons. This is for the Highway Department, approval to hire MEO 1A employee.
All right, so our Highway Superintendent, Mark Hall, is requesting permission to start the process to hire an MEO 1A, and that was due to a retirement that he's had. So someone want to make the motion to allow him to start the process?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we have the last add-on, which is a new item 20 for animal control for a T94 withdrawal.
Okay, Cheryl Cunningham, our Animal Control Officer, wants authorization to make an expenditure from the T94 account, which is a donation account. And this would the amount of $30, and that would be to Flannery Animal Hospital. So can someone make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero? I'm sorry, Councilman Ruggiero?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 21 for announcements.
The only thing I have to say, we had another rough week here with the storm, and our own highway and police and all town employees really worked extraordinarily well. We just keep getting hit with one after another. I want to say Central Hudson was very cooperative too in restoring power. So I think we really got to give Central Hudson a pat on the back for this one. And I'm probably going to turn this over to somebody else for comment, but I just noticed tonight that I look better on these videos with my mask on than without. Betty, do you have anything?
no, I don't.
Okay. Paul?
No, you said it, with highway and the police, they did a great job. That's it, Ben.
Okay. Scott?
Same thing. I was just gonna do highway, police, and Central Hudson, and everybody else, the fire department and the ambulance people who were out there all night also. Everybody did a great job.
Absolutely. And Councilman Lobiondo?
Yep, I just echo the same thing. I think the storm kind of crept up on us. I wasn't expecting it to be as severe as it was. We were out of power for 3 days, but the town came through.
Very good. Thank you.
Oh, Gil, excuse me, I do want to say thank you to all the firemen in the ambulance force. They had complete the whole county, every fire department was on standby because something happened to the 911 headquarters. So they put every fire, so the guys and gals spent the whole night at the fire department.
Yeah, a lot of dedication, Betty, really. We really have some excellent people in this town.
Yes, we do.
Okay, Bob, do we have anybody in the audience? We don't open to public comments, but is there anyone listening or watching tonight?
Say 3.
Okay, so we're gonna just go down the list of who's watching to see if they have any comment. So the first one is who, Bob? Nick? Okay. So
I
Nick
have no
Bill-
comments.
No comment. All right, thank you, Nick. Who
Thank
else
you.
we got, Bob? Yeah, we got Jim Osborne. Okay, it's Bill. Bill, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. Am I on air?
You're there.
Oh, great, okay. It was nice, it was Saturday, I guess, for the welcoming gathering at Chadwick for Anthony Lobiondo as a new councilman. That was a nice gathering, and thank you for that. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I noticed the culvert cost has gone up, and that's not surprising at all with all the delays and everything else that have happened. This is the Gardnertown Kidney Avenue culvert.
Correct.
Has that been awarded? I know the contracts or the proposals were due.
Well, this will give us the ability to award it now. Am I correct, Mark, now that we've approved the action?
Yeah, the bids were
Winner of that
opened.
culvert contract.
The bids were opened.
Broke up,
With this
whatever.
authorization, the board will be able to approve the lowest responsible bidder and award.
Question,
Bill, I think you're cutting out unless it's just me.
No, I can't hear him either.
Same here.
But it looks like you froze on the screen, Bill. I mean, it's
Yeah, I
awful
look-
hot out there, but you're frozen, I think, if you hear. Do we get him back or he's not?
one last question.
Okay, we got you. Go ahead.
One last question on the police officers moving to the Parks Department. Is it a separate union that they're not getting credit for their time in the retirement system? Is that the reason
Okay,
for the shift?
The way it actually works is if they, well, it's funny because one of them already worked at for the town before in the CSEA, but if they move to CSEA, they'll be able to get that time also that they had when they worked for the town before they became police officers. They'll add those years together. So it's an advantage to them, and we'll also get some use out of them as laborers actually at the park. And we also have another one there working, Dave Otto, I can say, outstanding fella. And he's taking the job at the guard shack. Has nothing to do with his retirement. He's just working there because he wants something to do, meeting people, and he's a great guy to do that. So, okay. Okay. Bill, did that answer your questions for now? Okay. Anyone else that's listening that might say something? That's it, Bobby? All right. So I guess that's all we have as a way of an audience. And if there's no other comments from anyone, we'll make a motion to adjourn, I guess.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn at 7:28 PM. Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piacladio.
Yes, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank